Hey, folks. Thanks for stopping by the Reclaim TV stream, or if you're watching this later, the YouTube channel or PeerTube channel or whatever. This is, in some ways, for me, kind of a throwback stream because this is a like solo Taylor does some ill-advised or silly stuff on a stream kind of thing. And yeah, because basically, what we're going to be doing today is kind of recapping a session I did for Reclaim Open, or not really a session. It's a blog post I wrote for Reclaim Open, and at that time, I did a exploration as part of our blogathon of what I called Backwoods CMS, which is just basically a theme or whatever for a kind of stupid idea I had, which is, you know, stretching the idea of a content management system. Like, what do you need to make a website? And we talk a lot about those types of things around the Reclaim sphere. So I thought it would be kind of funny to play with that, stretch the definition, be a little bit silly, but we spend plenty of time talking about like what WordPress can and can't do, or what we wish it did better. And folks spend time talking about the advantages of other content management systems. We talk about Ghost and what it can do. And I thought, what if we were to take the idea of a CMS, content management system. It's a system you use to manage content on, in this case, a website. If you look at just the title, that can take a lot of forms, right? We think of it as like a web application, or maybe not a web application, but something that is like a graphical interface to uh, update web content, and help you manage all that stuff. But we've seen over the years a lot of different takes on that, and some of them are kind of retro. I would describe somewhat retro or throwback in some ways. Like, I kind of feel like the idea of the static site generator, which sort of got more popular as a is that term in like the 2010 early 2010s and onward, and still today, um which is simply like, here's a usually terminal application or script or whatever that you point at a folder of often markdown files, but just text files, and it will turn that folder into a website and with HTML files, which you can then put on a server to or service. And that is in some ways a throwback, because that's it's not dynamic in the way that like a WordPress site or a Ghost site might be, where there's a database, and like when you request a page, it generates parts of the content of the page and throws that your way. So you can do all kinds of crazy things with those systems like WordPress and Ghost. A static site is more just, they're great for blogs and things if it's how you want to do things. But they can't be dynamic in all the same ways, because you're sort of putting a set of text files in the oven and taking them out, and it's a fully formed website. You put that somewhere, and it's going to stay like that until you do that process again. For the most part, there are some crazy things you can now do with JavaScript in the web browser. So it's not quite that simple. But anyway, I kind of think of that as a somewhat throwback idea, sort of. And I like it. I've run my blog on static site generators before. I'm not right now, but I probably will again someday, I bet. They're good. But I thought, like, what if we took that like idea and went real absurd with it? So that's sort of what came from this. The whole Backwoods idea is just like I said, just a theme of like, I'm your tour guide or your camp guide or your hiking guide or whatever, through this kind of roughing it scenario for content management. So yeah, we're gonna take a look here at what I came up with. So I've got my blog post here, and I'll maybe flip to this. Let me play with the window size here. Yeah, it's perfect. And yeah, so first of all, after I did the session, Brian Mathers did a bunch of uh, images, drawings for various different blogathon sessions. So I threw that on top here because I think it's fantastic. But um, yeah, this is the blog post. And basically, it's a link to something I made using a website called Infinite Mac that we'll take a look at here in a second, and then some instructions on how to use it. And yeah, I'm kind of proud of this because it ended up, I don't know, it ended up turning out kind of cool, given how silly of a concept this is, I think. So um, yeah, so I kind of throw a pitch here of you're tired of your CMS, try this, which is it's an ill-advised idea. I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but um, I don't know. I find this an interesting way to like cure the the tendency we have to take features for granted on modern software, honestly. So you can click on this button. You click the start the blog machine button. And what this does is it starts a emulated Mac, like mid to late 90s Mac right in your browser. And this comes preloaded with what I'm calling Backwoods CMS, basically, which is just some software and some instructions on how to use it. So we'll get into Infinite Mac and all this stuff and how I built this thing on top of that thing. But I want to start with the demo because I've been told that's what you do. So going back to my instruction blog here, I say, hey, fire it up. What you get is a emulated Quadra 650 running macOS 7.6. If we click on this, Quadra 650 was released 1993 to 1994, so definitely like mid 90s Mac. Yeah, so I give you a little tour, which I'll do in a second. And the first thing we'll want to do is close down some windows here because Infinite Mac is going to start with some windows we don't care about. It's got some information in the Stickies application. This is super cool, but we don't need it. It's going to open up this Infinite Hard Drive folder. We'll talk about that later. Don't need it right now. And it's going to open up this CMS folder. We will need that. I'm going to leave that open in our saved hard drive. We'll get back to that later. So yeah, we have a classic Mac desktop. And I find this particular era of macOS very charming. Personally, some of the earliest versions of the Mac I remember using were in would have been, I believe, System 8 and then macOS 9, mostly 9. But I love this version, System 7, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the design of it was a little bit simpler, and we'll talk about it more later if we have time. But I find like the art here, I feel like really holds up in a kind of cool way. So that's why I chose Mac OS System 7, also for performance reasons, based on how this emulation works. But yeah, we've got an emulated Mac here, and now we can create some things with it. So I'm going to jump in right to making a web page, and we're going to go in the next few minutes from, this to a public website. So we're going to use saved hard drive here. This is where we can store files. The Infinite hard drive has access to a bunch of other applications we aren't going to need right away, but there's a bunch of software in there we can use. Like I said, CMS is what I put together here. And the outside world is how we can get files in and out of this emulated content management system. So I'm going to make a new folder for our site. I'll call this My Cool Site. Open up that folder. Great. Now I can actually open up PageMill. So PageMill 2.0 we've got here is going to be one of our main editing tools. And so I'm going to open up PageMill. And I'm going to actually start by saving this out to the right location. So I'm going to go out to the desktop, go to saved hard drive, my cool site, and we'll call this, I think I had home.html in my example in the blog post, but I'm going to go with index. So this will be an index page, which would be nice. And I show a lot of this in my blog post here of, how to kind of get set up with things. These videos were kind of fun to make and try to make them look as nice as possible in the blog post. Yeah, so we're going to start. What did I say here? If you want to import files, yeah, you can use that via the load file. We'll do that. So let's start with a hello world page like I did in my example here. So I'm going to use PageMill to make a largest heading, hello world. And let's flip over to a paragraph. Let's put some, hey, this, oh. I'm not really sure why the font size is like this. But, this is the experience. Maybe I need to have a space between. Oh my gosh, I don't think it's capturing my audio the way I'm sharing screen here, but I'm getting the classic macOS like error sounds when I try to do something you're not supposed to do. Okay, so this is a test. Maybe I just need to select this. I super don't remember having this problem before, but let me not save this and reopen it. Okay. I bet I have to have a return between these. That's probably the issue. There we go. This is a test. Let's get blogging. All right, so that's cool. Let's save that. Let's get an image in here so we can kind of show how the images work in this type of thing, because this emulated Mac here, Mac OS System 7, does not have access to the internet, which is probably good. Yeah, so it doesn't have access to that. But we can get images in and out. So I'm on my real machine here. I'm going to go and we'll find an image we want to do. Maybe we'll, and I will say getting images in and out can be a little bit tricky because of what this version of macOS supports. But what I'm going to do is actually use this sample image here. I'm going to copy it into my cool site. So that was in the CMS folder. And we can try uploading some images a little bit later here, but we'll start with that. And I can simply just drag it right into my document here. There we go. So yeah, we'll put that powered by Backwoods CMS thing, and maybe we'll size it down so it's smaller. Great. So hey, we've got a very, very basic web page. I'll put some like filler text in here. There we go. And let's save that. So first thing we can do, we can actually preview it right in here. I mean, this is a WYSIWYG editor, so it's going to look something like this. But if we want to preview it in a period accurate web browser, we can do that with Netscape Navigator 2.0. I'm going to accept some terms here. So that's what it would look like in Netscape 2. Image is a little bit strange looking here, but other than that, I'm not too concerned about it. That looks good to me. I also can look at the actual code that's generated, right? So if I want to look at the actual HTML here, I can do that by going to the window menu, switch to, and this will open it up in BBEdit. BBEdit is a fantastic text editor. What version we have here? We've got about BB Edit. We've got version 5 from 1999. But BB Edit's still around today, and it had been around much. Obviously, this is version 5, so it had been around before. So BB Edit is kind of legendary for Mac text editing. So yeah, we're gonna I'm gonna, the thing I like about this is, first of all, the code that PageMail generates is very period appropriate. You've got the like capitalized HTML tags, which I find to be kind of endearing. But it's overall pretty clean because it's not like there's any fancy layout happening here. And yeah, so the cool thing with this is PageMail will also open any HTML file. So you'll notice that when I save this, it just saved out an HTML file. It didn't make like its own proprietary thing that we transform into an HTML document. So you can actually take an existing web page and bring it into PageMail. Now, I'm not sure what it would do with modern stuff. Maybe not a great idea, but you can technically, open other things here. And I really think that's kind of interesting. So, all right, so we've got our web page. It looks good to me. I'm going to close it, and we're actually going to upload this now so we can see it in a modern website, or web browser. So I've got the step 3 in my blog post here is publishing. So it says, hey, when you're done, you can just drag the website folder to the outside world drive. So let's do that. Go back to Infinite Mac. I'm going to drag this whole My Cool Site folder to outside world. Oh, I need to open up outside world first. And I believe we want to do the downloads folder, but it's been a bit. Yeah, or upload. Okay, yeah, uploads folder. Sounds good. I had that a little bit backwards. All right, so you can't see this because the way I'm sharing my screen here, but when I did that, my browser basically just prompted me with a download. So I saved that, and we will be able to open that up here or upload it to cPanel. So next step is I'm logged into my cPanel. I'm going to go to the file manager, and we'll go to demo. And I'm going to pull, I can do upload here, and I'm going to drag in my zip file that I got from Backwoods CMS. So I've done that. We can close that window. Let me reload. Here it is, mycoolsite.zip. So this is just a folder I've got ready for, Scratch websites and things. This will be at demo.jaden.me. In fact, my old demo from the blog post is still here at home.html. So that's the one I made before. But here I can just extract, and that sounds good. Great. So it extracted everything in this folder, which is actually not super ideal. I wish I had made its own folder for this. So what I can do is, well, honestly, I could just clean this up because I actually had intended to make it a separate folder for this My Cool Site. So let me actually delete that and do this again. I got some other stuff going on here I don't want to change. So I'll make a folder. So demo.jaden.me/mycoolsite. So if I go there right now, there's nothing there. My Cool Site, just, empty index is what I get when I go there. So now let me put my zip file in there, extract it. Bam. Okay, so now if I refresh, there we go. So that's the web page I just made. Yeah, so we just went from, a emulated Mac machine editing some files, and now we have a live real website on the public internet. So that's kind of the thought here is The content management system is this operating system that we're interacting with here, and some tools inside of it. So I find that uh, to be very funny, maybe just me. Um, but yeah, it's you know, if you think about it, this is a system which you could use to manage content. You've got an ability to browse uh, your content. Okay, that's the Finder. By the way, this saved hard drive, this gets saved to your browser's cache. So if I was to refresh this, it should come back. Now, I would, if it was important, I would maybe not completely trust that. But there are some other tools in here, so you can actually go to settings, and you can export your saved hard drive and import it. So if you wanted to have fast collaboration, you could do that. You could export this file, send it to somebody, have them import it. Bam! Now they get to use Backwoods CMS with your content without having to manually load in stuff. So it's this beats some modern content management systems in some actual real ways, in a way that I find funny, um, in terms of features and saving your session and things like that. Um, Yes, you are. So Eric, in the chat, yeah, PageMill takes me back before Dreamweaver got all attention. Yeah, this is, if I remember correctly, there was some overlap with PageMill and Dreamweaver, but it was basically, once Dreamweaver came out, it pretty much killed PageMill as a product, both owned by Adobe at that time. I believe it was, Go Live. Okay, so maybe there was one between. I'm not even aware of that. As is the case for almost everything that it was an Adobe product, they didn't originally develop it, they acquired it. I like to take my jabs at Adobe whenever I can, so I'm going to be mean about it. So yeah, okay, I wasn't even aware of Go Live. So apparently PageMill was around. 3.0 was the last major version. We're using 2.0. And I guess 2.0 was also available on Windows. And it's very basic page editor. It does not support a lot of features. Even at the time, it would have mostly done what you wanted to do, but there's not a lot of features available in it. But I find it to be kind of an interesting application because of, like I said, the things it does well. It writes clean HTML. It opens other pages. You don't have to start from its proprietary format. There's no proprietary format. And it's abandoned, so you can kind of just go get a copy of it and use it in an emulated Mac like this. So after PageMill, apparently Go Live was kind of another offering from Adobe, and I've never heard of Go Live. And then the one that most people I think have actually heard of was, which replaced both of those, is Dreamweaver. And Dreamweaver still around. Actually, I don't even know if Dreamweaver is still around. Yeah, still around. 21.7. Came out in December. So Dreamweaver's still around. I don't know many people that use it, but I've had to support it in a previous job, and I did not like supporting it. It was always a pain. But it does something that not a lot of things do, which is let me make, with design tools, a actual website that gets output without touching any of the code. There's not a lot of things that do that in the way that Dreamweaver and these types of editors do. Most of them are content management systems like WordPress that also have a full site editing feature, or the proprietary things like Squarespace. There's not a lot of applications you can run on a computer that do this. And I actually think that's kind of a shame. I wish there was something like Dreamweaver that was free and open source and also offered good features and wasn't a pain to use. I think that would be kind of cool. And it's weird to me that nothing quite like that exists that's any good. At least that I've encountered. Um, and so this is kind of my take on it, obviously. So, yeah, I don't realistically think that this is something a lot of people want, but it's an interesting exploration for sure. The other kind of cool thing is we get a lot of other stuff in here. So I already showed that we get a rich preview with Netscape 2. We can edit the code with a fantastic text editor, BB Edit. We also get access to image editing. So we have Photoshop 3.0 in this environment. And there's a lot you can do with that. So let me open my JPEG here in Photoshop 3. We also have Kid Pix and Ultra Paint, which is sort of like it's kind of like Mac Paint was, but it's not the same thing. It's sort of based in philosophy on that, but with more features. There's also Mac Paint 2.0 in here, which we could use, and Graphic Converter, which you will need because image formats at this time, man, nothing was supported well. So if you make an image in almost any of these things, you will need to use Graphic Converter to convert it to something like a JPEG, which can then be used on a website or even in Photoshop. So like Mac Paint does not have, if I go to Mac Paint here, and this is a pretty old version of Mac Paint. This is 2.0, 1987. So this is designed for older Macs than we're emulating, but it works. So I can do something like here, let's do a pattern and we'll do the paint bucket tool. Bam, got this pretty nasty pattern actually. Let me try something like this. Oh, I'm now filling in individual cells, huh? Well, let me undo. I don't know how far. Oh, I can only undo one step. Oh my gosh. Let me make a new one. So patterns. Let's do the stripes. Again, we'll do the paint bucket tool. And we'll go like that. Sure. And let me put some text on top of that. We'll use the Chicago font, big text here. This is Mac Paint 2.0. Great. You'll notice that this does not feature colors because in 1987, I don't believe there were any Macs that supported color. Maybe, yeah, maybe the Lisa, which would have been kind of old at that point, but that supported color in the Apple II, but not any Macintoshes, I think, or certainly it was rare, like maybe only one model. So anyway, we can save out my Mac Paint image here, and let me put that in the desktop. I'll put this in my cool site, even though it's not like a format like JPEG that we can actually use, but Mac Paint 2 demo. But let's save this. You'll notice that these are the formats. You can do stationary. So I assume for printing, a startup screen, which I don't actually know what that does. I imagine you could use that as part of the Mac OS startup at the time. There's very little security boundaries on operating systems this time, so you can replace lots of things. So maybe that's what that was for. But yeah, I'm just going to save it as a Mac Paint file. We'll hit save here. And now we're going to try to convert this. And I believe we can use Graphic Converter to do this, but I will have to see into something we actually make use of, like a JPEG. And I didn't register this, so I don't know if I can. Maybe we should go buy a copy of Graphic Converter. I wonder if this company's still around. Update the PC Exchange. Sure. Should Graphic Converter overwrite previous type? Add only. I'll just go with the. Okay, so it can open it. That's great. Let's save a as or export. Yeah, okay, I can save as. And let's go with a JPEG. And that looks good. Let's try it. JPEG 6.0. We could do a progressive JPEG so it can load, like sequentially, I believe that's what that did. Supports only 16.7 million colors or two. The document will be converted. Sure, that sounds great. I don't care. there we go. We've converted our Mac Paint document to a JPEG. Let me open this up. That looks good to me. Let's quit. And I will say, hold on one sec, stream folks here. I've got to look at a issue in real life for real things. We're having a couple servers that are performing slowly here. So I'm going to look at that really quickly here. Before I do anything else. Okay, that was an easy one. Cool, we're back. So I am, I've got another JPEG here. So let me open my HTML file back up. And I will mention one thing here too, is if you've never used classic Mac, Mac OS, a lot of the stuff that this does and doesn't do may be surprising to you. I had, but it's been a long time. So, there's some things I had to re-remember, like the menu bar doesn't work the way you remember probably. So you can't just click on a menu item and then move your mouse to the thing and then click again. You have to, they're pull down menus. So you have to click on them, hold your mouse down and drag kind of to the item you want. So if you just click and drag, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm holding my left mouse button down and go to get info. Great. But if I just click on it like I would, in Windows or modern Mac OS or Linux, when there's a pull down menu or when there's a menu bar or whatever, it's just going to go away. So that's why they're called pull down menus, is you have to pull them down. So that's kind of interesting. I believe they changed that in Mac OS 10, maybe there was a release between this and then, but I believe in 10 they started letting you do the Windows style menus. There's also like no taskbar or dock or anything, so you use this little switcher up at the top to switch between programs. And this very much like modern Mac OS, when you close I don't need that. When you close a window, that doesn't quit the application. You can have an application running, like in this case, Mac Paint, with no windows. So I actually need to quit. Maybe I'm running low on memory, so I'll quit that application. I've still got Photoshop open over here too. So let's quit that. Yeah, I don't need to save that. All right, so let's open this back up. And let's add this new image to it. So I've got the powered by Backwoods CMS here. Here is an image I just made using Mac Paint 2.0. I'll drag it right in there. Oh, this is a very large image. Perhaps I need to crop it or something. Yeah, I am going to crop it. So let's do that. We can use Photoshop to do that. So let me open this up. Oh, it's going to open in Graphic Converter. You might be like, oh, why don't you do right click and open with? Yeah, there's no right click on Mac at this time. Not a thing. So let me quit. I don't need Mac, or I don't need Graphic Converter. I want to use Photoshop for this. So let me just drag that on top of Photoshop. There we go. Photoshop loads so quickly in this emulated environment with Photoshop 3. It's beautiful. All right, I'm going to crop here. And I think I just hit enter. Yep, great. Just hit enter. That cropped it. And let's save. Oh, wait, no, I guess I can save its own JPEG out. That sounds fine. Let's try that. Let's go with Mac Paint 2 cropped .jpg. Medium quality is fine. All right, so that's good. I'm now realizing we've lost color here. So let me switch that over here in the settings to thousands of colors. There we go. Now we're back in color land. Um, I can't believe I remembered where to change that. It's been a long time since I've really used one of these Macs of this age, but yeah, down here is where you change your resolution and color settings. Oh my gosh. All right, let's drag this in, see if it works. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so let's save this out. And I'm going to export another version of my site here. So I've got a lot of windows open. I'm going to kind of clean some things up. It's overwhelming to me. Great. Okay, so I guess I can leave those open. Let's go to my outside world, uploads, and I will drag in my cool site. Again, I suppose I need to do the whole folder. And great. So it's downloading a new copy of that, asking me on my Firefox here if I want to replace it. I will. And now I'm going to upload that. So we're going to revise our website here. Oh, where did I? Whoops. Okay. Let's try that up. Rewrite file. Great. And let me reload. Okay, so this is from 1142. So hopefully that's the right one. I'm going to extract. Looks right to me. All right, let's refresh our page here. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful, heavily compressed JPEG image. To be fair, I think I selected like 50% quality and then did that again. So maybe I should have kept with the Mac Paint version and cropped that. But as you see, there's a lot of converting you need to do to get images to work across those old programs and modern stuff. So whatever, it worked. I'll take it. So I find this to be kind of charming, kind of funny, and but on the other hand, like it is really interesting what still works here, and it's kind of fascinating to me that this is even possible like this, right? So this is using, I'll kind of quickly go through how this thing works, but this is using a website called infinitemac.org. And it is a amazing little website that lets you use different Macs, and I'll close the one I have open to demonstrate this, and also some other machines too. So you can use like Next Step, which is Next Computers, which was like Steve Jobs's company after he was fired from Apple. They started Next Computers, and one of the Next Cubes, which is one of the really expensive Unix workstations they made at Next, was what Tim Berners-Lee used to write the original spec for the World Wide Web and the original server, I believe, and browser. Actually, I don't know if it was original server, but definitely original browser, which was just called World Wide Web. So that's kind of cool and relevant, I guess, to our conversation today. So you can just go in here and be like, yeah, what was Mac OS system, 6 like? Or I can go, let's go with like 1. So 1984, like original system operating system here. And you just hit run, and this spins up in your web browsers. This is running locally on my computer in a web page. It's not like being streamed from another server in terms of the emulation and compute. Basically, it sends over a JavaScript-based emulator and a file that it can read to run the operating system. And so from like a computing history perspective, this is so cool, to me anyway. And so you can see here, this is what the original operating system looked like. Now this is on an original Macintosh. Keeping in mind, this did not have a hard drive, so you would boot with a floppy. You had one floppy drive, and then you would once you boot up, typically you would eject that floppy and put in another floppy with maybe the application you wanted to run or your files or whatever. And if you had all kinds of money, you maybe bought a second floppy drive and kept them both plugged in. So this is an example where in the emulator, that's what they're doing is they've got the system disk still, plugged in while this other fake floppy, this is called infinite hard drive, is plugged in too. So this is actually just a thing that they put together where infinite hard drive has a bunch of software of that period available for you. So you can look at like Mac Draw. Let's do Mac Write maybe. Keep in mind Microsoft Excel 1.0 is here. Microsoft Excel predates Windows. And it was, I believe, originally just a Mac application, which is fascinating to me. Also keep in mind there's not much multitasking on this version. Oh, I'm too much. I don't have enough memory on this Mac to run that. I maybe would have to close some things or use a newer Mac. So anyway, it gets you this library of machines to use. So I could go back to the homepage here and say, all right, let's do system 3.0 and see what was different between the 2 years there. You can also customize this and change what type of Mac you're emulating. So there's a lot of options here. You can change how much RAM you had. You can add other disk URLs, which is what I've done to make this happen. So I standardized on system 7.6. I believe I picked that because it was the very last version of macOS 7 available in here. And macOS 7 was kind of, I was mentioning before, my favorite from a design perspective now. I'm more familiar from the time. macOS 9 is I learned how to like edit video in iMovie on macOS 9 in elementary school, actually. Well, middle school. And so that's mostly what I had experienced with Macs from of that time, but I always have a sweet spot for the way 7 looks. So I went in here and I basically set up that CMS drive that we were looking at. And that was a saved hard drive, just like we saw. If I go back to my link here, if you look at this copy link here, okay, so this is infinitemac.org, 1997 Mac, and so this is some identifier, and it says load a CD-ROM from archive.org, and it has this long kind of URL. This CMS disk I created using Infinite Mac and exported it, put it on archive.org, and then use their customize tool to have it load a virtual CD from a URL. And so it loads that disk basically when you run it. Because normally if I was to do this 7.6 image here, it's just going to have, some of these drives, it's not going to have that CMS drive. That's the thing I made for this. So if I go back here, that start the blog machine URL has all the information we need to provide Infinite Mac with how to load my CMS drive, basically. So it's, maybe not the most sophisticated thing, but it's so cool that this website lets you do something like this. So, and ultimately, I was trying to think through a lot of different ways to accomplish this. And what I landed on was that it's really hard to make like a properly formatted disk image on modern hardware for this era of operating system. So I use this very tool to do this. So basically, when I was doing this, I collected the software I wanted. Some of it existed in Infinite Hard Drive. And in fact, some of these things are just aliases to there. So you can see all these folders with the italics are actually just, I don't know if I have a way to show this, but these are actually links to the Infinite Hard Drive. So they're not even really technically stored, they're not taking up storage in this CMS drive. If I do get info maybe on one of them. Yeah, you can see it's an alias. And the original is Infinite Hard Drive Developer BBEdit 5.1 BBEdit. So we can find it in Infinite Hard Drive. which I've got open here still, developer, BB edit 5.1, and it points right to the folder in there. So yeah, this is basically me being like curating some software to use. And then I did go out and find a copy of PageMill 2 because that wasn't available in here. And that's the thing I really wanted to showcase because I think it's kind of interesting. So for that, I actually used, you can see down here, there's like a library of other CD-ROMs you can load that they maintain. And also Macintosh Garden is in here, which is a whole website, which is a repository of old Mac software. PageMill. So I went in here and found PageMill, and I actually loaded it into this thing and configured it and set it up with a license key, by the way, because like it does want you to license the application. However, Adobe's released a key that's like, hey, this will work. You know, we're no longer supporting this. You can just install this key and it will work. So that's what I did. I install all of that so that you don't have to go through the install procedure. You just get a working application that you can just go and click on. So that's kind of what I did. I did that all in a saved hard drive. Then I renamed it. So I named it, you know, you can just change the name of drives like on macOS. So I named it CMS and hit enter basically at that time. Then I went into the settings here and I hit save as, or no, I did save as disk image and I uploaded that to archive.org. Basically. So archive.org, if you make an account, you can just throw files there, right? The Internet Archive is an amazing resource. I don't know if I named this something that'll be easy to find. Backwoods CMS. Yeah, I did. Interesting. So here it is. And basically I gave this link here to the Infinite Mac tool when you fire it up. If I go back to the customize view, I gave that URL here, and then it gave me in turn a URL. So that would be grabbing this link. So I grabbed that, and then I hit, basically I adjusted some, I think these settings are basically all I stuck with here. So let me hit run. And then, I've got 2 of these open right now, which is why it's complaining. But then I basically just grabbed this folder or this URL and, published it. So that's how this thing works. So it's kind of fascinating to me. I was hoping to do more with this. Like I was really trying to see if I could figure out a way to customize these stickies so I could have the instructions in it, but I didn't come up with a good way to do that. And I thought it would have been kind of cool to like have maybe even a wallpaper that has instructions built into the wallpaper. And I basically just ran out of time. I think that may have been possible, and it definitely would be possible if I believe Infinite Mac lets you do custom boot disks. So instead of using the operating system that they've laid out here and made available, I think you can, so you can, these are like a bunch of the boot disks. You can actually do your own, a custom one. The problem is you need to upload that. So people would have to download my customized disk image and use this form and upload it. There's no way to like have it pre-ready to go the way that these disk URLs work with archive.org. So this is a fantastic feature, by the way, that they even do this, because the developer of this site has to like go and cache this, because you'll notice that my disk image from archive.org, that's a 1 gigabyte disk image. That's huge for the time, especially. So it's not like your browser is loading this in every time. He's got a service that caches all this stuff and makes it work. This, by the way, is only a 1 gigabyte disk image because I didn't know how to format it properly. Smaller, it doesn't have that much data on it. It's just a side effect of the way I did this, but it works, and frankly, it doesn't end up mattering. So Yeah, that's a quick, unorganized dive into sort of what is the underlying software that makes this kind of dumb experiment work. But it's so cool, and I would highly recommend checking out with other things in Infinite Mac. So, like, you can go in here, like, let's go use Mac OS 9, which I mentioned a couple times, as I had a little bit more familiarity with, but I, from a design perspective, find it like uglier in some ways, I guess. But you'll notice that, like, once this fires up here, and this does take longer to fire up because this is emulating a much newer um, computer and operating system. So my computer, to emulate this properly, has to do more sophisticated work. So that was another good reason to use System 7. Is you'll notice how snappy it was to start up. It was kind of cool. Man, this is taking a bit. All right. So it's funny. The saved hard drive persists because it's in my browser cache. You can see my cool site is still here. Now, I didn't load the CMS drive, and even if I did, that software probably wouldn't work on this emulator because it was designed for pretty old, um, much older Macs than this, and a different CPU. Technically, this is a PowerPC Mac, and those were 68K processors that we were emulating before. Which I'm not going to go into all the whole differences of that, but if you know about classic Macs, you go, oh yeah, big difference in the 4 or 5 years we're talking about here. So it's different type of CPU entirely. So this is Mac OS 9, and you know, it's got a lot more color. It's got like more gradient and shading and stuff, and that's cool. I really like the Mac OS System 7 look though. It's so simple. So I find that really charming. So I kind of loved that that was an option I could go with. But you know, there's also more stuff in here. So if I go in the Infinite hard drive, there's like, let's look at some games in here that are built in. Um, Brosia software. I don't know a lot of Mac games from this time. So, oh, Civilization. Is this the original Civilization? This might be too old. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I think this is the original Civilization. Let's see here. But it does work, which is fascinating. It seems to be barely working, but and I don't know how to quit, and the buttons and text don't work. But wow, super cool. Oh my god. I love games that use like user interface like this that have multiple windows instead of it being like a full screen application. It's fascinating. All right. So let me quit this, but there's a lot of stuff in here. And so the the text not working and the buttons is a little bit much. So I would, you know, if you want to play Civilization, maybe use an older Mac than what I'm emulating right here. But there's so much stuff in here. This Infinite hard drive is kind of cool. Oh, Bungie's. Is there Marathon in here? There's Marathon. Man. So Marathon is a series that Bungie made before Halo. And you didn't know, Bungie were all about the Mac from their inception to until basically they started working on Halo, and it shifted to be a Windows game because of partnership with Microsoft. Whole thing. I love video game history stuff, so I could talk about this forever, and we're already at the end of the time. I can't believe that this works this well in here. Now, I will say Marathon, you can go get and run on even modern computers now. It's been ported. It's I believe, open sourced, but it is kind of fascinating that this works in an emulator. I will say now that I've loaded it in, I can't actually control it, so maybe it doesn't work great. But you know, your mileage may vary with this type of emulation for sure. And then, like I said, there's other software you can use. The Macintosh Garden tab. You'll have to tinker. These are like just access to a repository. So some of these things are just like, here's a file and you'll have to figure out how to use it and install it, which is what I had to do for PageMill. But you know, if you don't want to tinker too much, those applications on the Infinite hard drive are definitely easier to get access to and try out. So Yeah. Anyway, thanks for my big rant of a stream where we look at authoring web pages with ancient software and hosting them on modern uh, web services and looking at them with modern browsers. I hope you found it interesting. And thanks for tuning into this solo stream where I dig into something kind of stupid, which is sometimes my favorite. So it's a nice way to do a Friday stream, a little palate cleanser between some of our more worthwhile stuff we'll have up on Reclaim TV. I will say, if you're curious on the event calendar, events.reclaimhosting.com, we always have our upcoming stuff. So next week, we're participating in Open Education Week from the OE Global folks, which is fantastic. Go check out Open Education Week if you haven't. We're doing one thing or like contributing one thing to it, which is a conversation that we're live streaming, and we're really excited about it. So check that out. We also have, and this is actually, yeah, sorry. This is, we put it on our calendar, but this is put on by the OE Global thing. This is on March 5th. And I believe Marin is part of it. Yeah, Marin is in this, but tons of other people as well. Alan Levine, Amanda Coolidge. Yeah, a lot of folks you'll recognize from around these parts. Kathleen Fitzpatrick. So that'll be fantastic. And then on Friday, we're doing a stream on Reclaim TV that we're kind of entering for OE Week with Ed Beck, who we recently did a case study on his Open Lab project and how that started and how it grew and where it's now. We're doing a stream with him. So that'll be fantastic. I'm really excited about that. And then upcoming, we've got all kinds of other stuff. So check out the events calendar. As always, you can also check out reclaim.tv for old episodes and old streams, as well as our YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks Eric for hanging out live, and thanks anyone who's watching this later, and we'll see you next time.